Hello, this is Lee speaking. I wasn't planning on doing anything today, but I'm going to come out for a couple minutes. It's not going to be that long, but there's a couple things that I need to clear up and explain. One is tomorrow night at 8 p.m. 8 p.m. Eastern, I'm going to have Gunnar Lindblom here. And I understand that some people are going to say, why do you have Gunnar on your show? He's a friend of Johnny Alate's. And the reason being is because I cannot judge the man by his friends. He knows how I feel. I have spoke to him in emails, and he has said to me that he would like the opportunity to come on the show. So Gunnar Lindblom, it will be here on the show tomorrow, and he's going to take a Q&A questions from the chat room because this is going to be a live show. So this is the opportunity for people to come in and talk to Gunnar and ask him the questions you want to ask him. And I understand the feelings about Gunnar because of him having certain people on his shows. But you know what? Here's the difference between him and Johnny Alate is he's going to come on the show. And he knows he's going to get asked tough questions. So when I put up the advertisements for the show and stuff, I don't want people to say, oh, he's doing a show with Gunnar Lindblom. And that means nothing. I'm doing a show with Gunnar Lindblom because I like to ask him some questions. And this is why I want the audience tomorrow in on it. I want you also to ask those questions. And, the guy, he pretty much says that, he really just had Alate on his show. He's not friends with him. And I know how people think Larry Maz is a different situation. But you know what? The great thing is you guys get to ask him that. So you guys are going to be able to ask him all these questions tomorrow. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try very hard to take everybody's questions tomorrow when he's on the show. You can, Angel says, why are you going to ask questions about John to Gunnar? Gunnar is his own man. Google his name ain't hard to find. And yeah, you know what? Good point, Angel. That is a good point. But it's something that the people that come on my show would want me to do. So I have to. But you know what? He's going to be straight with me. The fact that he's even willing to come on his show says a lot. It was like Jimmy Calandra. Jimmy Calandra did the same thing, and he came on the show. And that was when I did the interview was last Saturday, not this Saturday, but the one before that. I did the interview with Jimmy, and I'm going to clear something up also about Jimmy. When I came on the show, I really attacked Sammy Gravano quite hard yesterday. Now, just because Jimmy knows Sammy doesn't mean I was speaking about Jimmy. Jimmy has always been a really good guy with me. He came on my show. I talked to Jimmy. We had a nice conversation today. And I'm just going to clear that up. I have no issues with Jimmy Calandra at all. Jimmy is one of the good guys in this whole situation. Yes, some people think that something bad happened in his life, but I think that he's fairly cleared that up. So, that's why I'm putting that out there about Jimmy. And this is the tough part about doing this show. You're dealing with a lot of people, and you're dealing with some really nasty, bad people. And they will do anything to mess. I've been getting calls at nighttime and people hanging up on me. And, when I say that someone gave my phone number away, it doesn't mean I'm talking about Jimmy. People have to understand that, but people jump to conclusions. So it wouldn't be right for me to have Jimmy on this show and to help me out and stuff and to be stabbing him in the back a week later. And I wouldn't do that. So, please understand that, that's an important thing. I don't have to come on here and give an explanation to anybody unless I really believe it's the correct explanation. And okay, Munoz says, my issues with Gunner is he had this clown A-Liar on, and A-Liar was doing the we thing again, referring to him and Gunner. And at no time did he say me and you aren't the same. You know what, Carlos? That's a great question to ask him. And I'll promise you this, Carlos, I will make sure that if you get your question in here tomorrow night, I will get that question to him. This, you're absolutely right. And, there is the question about him being Miles's friend. And you know what? Even though he's already said that he's going to be on this show tomorrow, I don't know if someone's going to try to stop it between now and then, but I know that he's made a commitment to me. And I'm going to trust Gunner at his word that his commitment's good. So now it's up to him to keep his commitment to come on the show with me. And, and that's what we're going to hope. Carlos, you know what? You're a really solid person. You've been on here. You ask great questions. You're straight and right up front. And I promise you that I will get your question right to him as soon as I see it. And, okay. Sammy didn't testify against Gotti. He testified against numerous other people in the mob. Yes, very good. And that's not just the main reason I am having with Sammy right now. Just go watch his shows. It's the Kaiser boy that was killed. That's my issue. His autopsy showed he had no heroin in his blood system. Think about that. Sammy said he was a heroin addict, a junkie. He was running from a gun scene and got murdered. Let's get that straight. So, that's my issue. And if people say, oh, I like Sammy, I'm not going to listen to you anymore, Lee Cole, well, then, okay, don't listen to me. But I'm not going to change my feelings about something that vile, about a 16-year-old innocent kid on the street getting murdered. And, the FBI knew about it. The minute they found about it, nobody ever knew. And Sammy had to come forward and he mentioned that to the FBI. And then the FBI withheld it from the family for a while. So the FBI thought it was more important for them to have the information from Sammy than to tell the family about what happened. They weren't going to even tell the family. So there's a lot of really ugly things behind that. Okay, this is Lee changed the story. He did not pipe three guys. He beat them with ketchup bottles at a diner. Well, nothing surprises me when it comes to him. And it's because I'm a convict and stand-up man, and a stand-up man who believes in the code of the streets that will never change. You know what, Carlos? A lot of people feel that way, And, it's, I had a good conversation with somebody today and they spoke about that, that people nowadays, they know that they can do something wrong and they get a free card. It's like a monopoly, you get that free card when you pass Broadway and get out of jail free card. And that's what they're giving out right now. Get out, and these gangsters on the streets, they know it. They know, oh, well, look, if I can do this and if I get caught, I'll just rat everybody out. I'll do a couple years in jail and I'll be okay, and that's what they're thinking. I'm not going to be here long today because I have a friend coming in and I just wanted to get, and the two things I wanted to clear up more than anything is the fact that Jimmy Calandra is a stand-up guy and I have no issues with Jimmy Calandra whatsoever. And if anybody has issues with Jimmy, I have issues with them. I'll be totally honest with you. Because I think he's a very fair man, and talking to him, he's a father of two children that he loves and he takes care of. And he's just a good man. He goes out, he works hard. He's not out there hustling, looking to make money for free. He's out there working a couple jobs, trying to make a living. And that's what separates him from these other guys. And as for Lindblom, please remember, we cannot not talk to people because we don't like who they have on their show. We still have to talk to them. Just because, that's like our politics now. One party tells us not to feel one way, and if we feel the other way, we're no damn good. We can't do that. So, I'm actually excited to have him on the show because I want to see the questions you guys ask him and ask him tough questions, and Okay, let's see. Kevin, Alakai is running towards a man with a shotgun. Please stop saying this kid was innocent. Sammy's guys were trying to get a guy who tried muscling. You know, you're not telling the facts, Kevin. You know, you could think what you want, but these aren't the facts. Okay? You know what? You can look at the autopsy report, by the way. Okay. And people are going to keep defending him, you know? So they're going to keep on defending him. So, you know, I'm not going to change the way I feel about that. When I grew up in Hell's Kitchen, nobody called the cops, even the cops who lived in the neighborhood. Yes, Hell's Kitchens, but you had the Westies there, you know, and, but let's remember what happened though. When the Westies all got busted, a lot of them started snitching, you know. So, you know, you had those guys that did snitch. There was quite a few of them. And that was toward the end when the Westies started going down with Coonan and all those guys. Being an Irishman, I know a lot about the Westies. But there were a lot of snitches on the Westies when they went down. So that was the code of the streets. But when they were in jail, they did start snitching. As a matter of fact, a couple of them to this day are still in the witness protective program. But Irish Green, thank you for that. And let's see. Lowly and lovely, the respect for you and Jimmy. I appreciate that. That's what we expect because we're going to give the same thing back to you. And if you guys disagree with me, please remember it's just a disagreement. You know, like Kevin said, what he had to say about Alan Kaiser. That's his. You know, that's his agreement. You know, you're talking about what Sammy says. Sammy is a liar. You can't believe a damn thing Sammy says. You know, Sammy. It's like what I talked about last night. Sammy has a tattoo of Odin on his arm, but yet he talks about how he's, because of the new show coming on TV, that he's all about BLM and he's all about all his black friends and stuff, but yet he has Odin on his arm. That sounds kind of hypocritical if you ask me. But you know, this is what we have to do. We have to understand as a human being, we have to look at the logical answer. People are willing to believe this stuff. And sometimes the logical answer is right in front of your face. You know, how many times have you watched a show with Sammy on it talking about that damn tattoo of Odin and the white supremacist groups in jail and how he friended up with them and how they loved him and stuff. And then he's coming back on another show talking about his black friends and the BLM and how he, you know, come on. Doesn't that sound like self-promotion? Doesn't that sound like a guy that's just doing something for himself? You know, and that's logical. Okay, I'm going to answer a couple more here, and then I'm going to. Okay, Sammy broke his ankle and was laying in the back seat of the car and couldn't shoot the guy. Kevin, you know something? If you go to a gunfight and people are shooting people, you're all involved if you got a gun on you. If you plan a murder, you are involved in that shooting. And how do you know he was in the back seat of the car, Kevin? Were you there? Or did, you know, who told you this? See, this is the question. Who tells you these things? Who puts these things out in public? So you're basically saying the family's full of shit. You know, you're saying that they're lying about the autopsy reports and stuff. But yet they have actual evidence that there was no type of drugs like this in the kid's system. Isn't that good enough? Sammy said he was a heroin addict, so he would have heroin in his system. Doesn't that make perfect sense? Okay. There is a code on the street, and the prisoners are filled with the men who won't dishonor. You know, only a rat will say there is no code. Yeah, and that's true. You know, and you know there are guys still sitting in jail. You know who's really famous? The bikers. The bikers go to jail and they don't snitch. Sure, sometimes some of them do, but in general, those biker gangs don't snitch. Okay, well, we see something going on there, and just because Sammy was doesn't mean he's a good convict. He was in protective custody. There's killer snitches in PC. Oh, sure there is. There's lots of killer snitches. But he was in PC. Even if you listen to his stories on his show, he had you thinking that he's running the prisons too. My brother, amazing. Well, Boston J, I appreciate that. And you know how I felt about Jimmy from the very beginning. And there was a misconception because when I did my show yesterday and I came out and was talking about the phone, that was a big misconception. Okay, just so you know, I just wanted to get that out there. And it's like I said, I wasn't going to even do a show today, but I had to because it's the right thing to do for Jimmy. The kid was in the wrong place at the wrong time, hanging out with the wrong people. That doesn't mean that you should be murdered. That doesn't mean that you have the right to be blown around. How many of us in this here have hung out with the wrong people? I hung out with the wrong people. Does that mean I should be murdered? I hung out with some really bad people. Does that mean I should be murdered? You know? And how come, you know, think about it. It was never known until Sammy had to fess up to everything. And Sammy's the one that told those people what he did. He wasn't put in a cell and forced out of them. Looking at Italian and Philly, Jesus Christ. Okay. Whatever. Okay, they can't drink coffee without giving up a murder. Yeah, that's true. You know, you know something? I don't know if you guys watch 48 Hours, but 40 Hours is quite a funny show. It's like a comedy show. It's horrible in the beginning. Somebody dies and they're murdered. But then they bring these guys in. And then the minute they sit down with the cops, they start talking. And 95% of the times, there's no way any of these guys will be convicted if they just kept their mouth shut. But then the cops pretend they're your friends, you know, and they talk to you nice. They have their whole routine they do. And they get these guys. Like, think about it, guys. Go watch 48 Hours and say, dude, shut up. Don't say nothing. The first thing you say is, I want a cop. I want a lawyer. That's the first thing you say. If you have trouble with the cops, never speak to them. I want a lawyer. Even if they're the nicest guys in the world. I want a lawyer. That's the famous line. But yet, so many people don't use that line. You know how hard it is to convict people? Do you realize that if Sammy Gravano did not snitch on John Gotti, we don't even know what would happen with that trial. We don't even know if John Gotti would have, and everybody would have been found guilty in that trial. We don't know that. All you need is one person on the jury. That's it, one person. Well, you know, something as powerful as Sammy sitting up there. And yes, I know what John Gotti did was wrong, you know, but that's the thing. I mean, talking on the tapes and stuff, but that's what these gangsters do. They all talk shit about each other. I've never met a gangster that didn't talk shit about the next guy. But that doesn't mean that, you know, every one of them, they all talk about each other. That's just it. They're in a room. I've been in the room with these guys. God, they talk shit about each other. You got to remember, being a gangster means that you're just not a pretty nice guy. You know, you have no morals. You know, you just don't. You're a gangster. You kill people for a living. That's what you do. Especially when you're getting up to the upper level of gangsters. They have to, those guys that run everything, they have to make the decision of who lives and dies. I mean, that's a pretty big decision. Okay. Jimmy got 75 years and done 350 years so far. Another 80 years. He's out. He kept his mouth shut. Okay. It's all about clicks. What do you think Sammy and Elite do? Well, you know what? Yeah, it's about clicks, but you know what? You take chances. I'll give you an example. I'm coming here today, and I want yesterday, the easiest thing for me to do was not say nothing about Sammy, to guarantee that my show doesn't go down a little bit. And if you look at my show yesterday, I had a lot of likes, but I had a lot more dislikes because I talked about Sammy. But I find it comical that people actually think Sammy's a nice guy. People look at him and go, oh, he's okay. No, he's not okay. He was a mass murderer that started the drug ring when he got out. And he got lucky because when he got out again, there was this YouTube thing. Who knows what Sammy would have done if it wasn't YouTube? You know, YouTube. Oh, come to us if you're a gangster. If you're rats, come to us, start your own show, you know, and just talk away, you know, say whatever you want. Say that you're these 1,000 things that you were not. Now, one thing about Sammy, he's the real deal. He was a gangster. He was the underboss. You know, there's no doubt. That's the difference which separates him from A-Light and these other guys. There's no doubt. But the fact of the matter is that we do not know first of all, Sammy does not deserve to be out in the streets for the sins that he's committed in his life. We have guys sitting in prison for dealing dime bags for 20 years. We have guys that have been caught with a couple bags of heroin on them that are in jail for 20, 25 years. And they're still sitting in jail. So think about that. And then you have someone that comes forward and says, I was part of 19 murders, and he's out of jail in 4 years. And then he's out of jail. He goes to Arizona. He starts a drug ring. People say, well, his children started it and come on. And people believe anything they hear. But the fact of the matter is, he started the drug ring. His children were involved with him. Let's remember that. So he went from being a gangster, a killer, to a drug guy with his family involved, his daughter, his son, his ex-wife. And then he went back to jail. He did 17 years and got out again. But when he got out, there was this thing called YouTube. And he's like, wow, I can make a lot of money on YouTube. I don't need to commit crimes. So I can just go on YouTube and bullshit about everything. And you know what? I'll watch Sammy's shows because they're entertaining. But I don't think he deserves to have those shows. And if he does have those shows, that money should go to his victims. That's what it should be. And, we talked about this. He wanted Kaiser's mother to come on the show. She refused to come on the show. And then he went out on a show and said these horrible things about the Kaiser kid. Does that sound like a good man? Does that sound like a man that changed his life around? Jimmy okay, we already did that one. Why are only the white groups in jail called supremacist groups? You know what? I'm not going to touch that one, dude, because you know how race is and talking about race on YouTube. But that is a very good question. Okay. These cooperators, fanboys are yeah, they are, Carlos. They really are. They don't understand jail. They don't understand that in jail, they have a unit called PC, where in PC, they put the child molesters and the rats. They put them together. They literally put them together in the same sections. And out in the streets, people go, oh, it's okay if they were a rat. But yet if they go to jail and if they're out amongst the populations, Carlos, why don't you give them a hint what would happen to them if they're out amongst the population? Exactly, Carlos. Seen up firsthand. Sammy could have been touched in PC. Okay. 1 second, please. Hey, Paul. I'll call you back in about 10 minutes. Give me a break. 10 minutes. 10 minutes. Okay. Hey, my friend arrived from Louisiana. He's been driving all over the country, so I'm going to have to end this show quick. But I just wanted to tell everybody, thank you for being here. I wanted to tell you about Jimmy, great guy. I have no issues whatsoever with Jimmy, and he deserves everybody going to his station more so than I do. So please remember that. As for Sammy, I'm not going to come on for that. That's my thing. I was staying away from the Sammy in the beginning because I was afraid that, I'd lose viewers. People won't like my show as much. But if you don't like it. But I'm not going to pretend Sammy's something he's not. And also, I'm going to have Lynn Bloom on this show. And Gunnar is going to be here because we're going to ask him tough questions. I'm not having him here to say, I want to be your friend now. He's coming here as a professional to interview. And you guys can get to know him a little bit, see what he's about. Just don't judge him because he had Johnny A-Light on his show. Ask him why he had Johnny A-Light on his show, then come to your own conclusion. That's what I would say. So I'm going to check out now, guys. I'm going to be here tomorrow night, and the bald Sicilian is going to be with me during the interview. And the bald Sicilian said the same thing to me. Why are you having him on your show? When I explained it to the bald Sicilian, he understood. And he said, now the bald Sicilian says, I'm looking forward to it. I can't wait to ask him questions. So bring your questions tomorrow, guys. Thanks a lot. I'm sorry I can't hang around longer today. Everybody take care. Thank you.